This conversation is with Carlos and Robert from the Triple 300 One Loft Race in California. They go over the details of the Triple 300, and we get to know them a little bit as who they are as fanciers. I really appreciate their time. Thank you. All right, here I am with Carlos and Robert from the Triple 300 One Loft Race in California. How are you guys today?
Hey guys, really good. Thank you for having us. Doing great, great.
Well, it's
Great to be
nice
on.
to meet you both, and there's a lot of different formats in one loft racing that people can get involved with, but I think your one loft race is very unique with the triple 300, getting 300 miles and more 3 times. And so there's a lot of excitement about it. And so I'm looking forward to getting to know you two guys and also learning what your race is all about. Um, let's start with Carlos. What's the dynamic between you two? Do you guys how do you guys work together on this race?
We're partners on the race. Robert's the manager, and I take care of the help.
Good.
Uh, it's a lot of work, but it's really worth it. And it is a unique race. It is a unique format, and it's an 8 race series, which I mean no one has, and it's a good way to test out your birds. First 5 are average speed for speed, and the last 3 is the average speed for middle distance. We just had our first year where we had low birdage because it was our first year,
Sure.
but the race was a success. I mean, percentage wise and losses and returns, the birds could just rocked it, and we found out it's a really good way to test your birds and bring out the best of all of them and select the elite group or the loft.
What Carlos, how did you get started in pigeons?
I'm going on 42 years flying birds.
Wow.
Originally flew in Mexico for about 25 years, and I moved up here to the States, California specifically, and now I've been flying about 18, 19 years.
And so
So
did you flew there and or were you guys in the same club? Is that how you guys met?
we were in the same combine.
Combine, got it.
Yeah. First, let me tell you, Robert's tough to beat. He's one of the best flyers up here. And he's a true pigeon man. I mean, he really knows how to get the best out of birds. He really knows how to condition, train, and last 2 years ago we had this idea because we all love pigeons and we all love the competition and we see all these one lofts that are coming up, but we wanted to do something that would really challenge the birds, something that we would be interested to send ourselves. And we had the time. We came up with a format and we built the loft. And we're really happy we're here. The knowledge is there, the help is there, and I think we're prepared to give our fellow flyers something that they're really going to benefit from and enjoy doing.
That's great. And so
Yeah,
Robert, go ahead. How did you get started?
I started in 1984 when I was 13 years old. So this is my 50th year. And I've done a lot of things. I raced race cars and raced kids and grandkids and everything. And the entire time I've had my birds. And so birds have always been my passion. About 9 years ago, I started being the liberator when one of our good friends who was hauling the birds passed away. So I've learned a lot about care of the birds on the trailer, and I'm kind of anal about how I treat them and how I release them. The only downside is I don't get to see my birds fly in from the race, but
Yeah.
We've had since I've been doing it, I have to say we have not, as a club, had a smash race. So I'm going to stick to my techniques. A lot of people want the birds let out as soon as they see light, but you're never going to see me let them out before 30 minutes after the sun is up. I think that's extremely important.
Right.
But Carlos and I were competitors in the combine here, and then in the last 2018, moved up here to this area, And so we teamed up, came up with this idea. He's flying in, we were flying in the same club together. So we just moved everything out to this location, which is a beautiful spot. See the birds coming from a long way away. It's just beautiful out here. And, you know, we can't wait for people to come out here and actually see the facility firsthand.
What part of California are you guys in?
We're on the Central Coast.
Okay.
We're, you know, centrally located. So, you know, a lot, you know, 3 hours from LA, 3 hours from Frisco. I mean, everybody, you know, it's driving distance for a day trip. So,
Right.
It's Santa Maria, California, and we had unique weather too, which helps a lot with the birds. Never too hot, never too cold. Loft was designed to get the ideal breeze and the ideal temperature and humidity. So the birds stay really healthy all year round, all year round.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we're blessed
jealous.
that way.
I'm jealous of you guys sitting outside comfortably, relaxing in the beautiful weather. Here in Oklahoma, it's getting cold and
Not bad.
winter time and everything. But yeah, it looks like a beautiful place and a great place to fly pigeons. What? Okay, is this the loft behind you then for the 300?
yes.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
How many birds can you hold max?
There's a room for over 1,000 on this side. We're going to limit it to 900. You know, we just don't want, crowding is a major issue with everybody, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, no matter how good your bird is, if you overcrowd them, they'll self-cull. Some of them will just leave on their own. And so
Yeah, so
they have to have
900 tops, and health wise, space wise, and another thing is to train 900 pigeons is hard. To
Right.
get the best out of those pigeons is hard. You get more, you get into the thousands, and it's impossible. You can't really train those birds how they deserve to be trained. So I think 900 is a fair number. 900 we can really take care of, and the issue with this is our customers have to be happy with the results. They have to know that their birds were really tested, and the birds that got out of the series are birds that you probably want to breed from. You want
Right.
to stock at your loft. So 900 is the number.
Yeah, we fly our I haul the club races also, and so this series I released the one loft birds first, and then 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, then I released our club birds, and so I'm able to test my own personal birds. I treat these birds exactly like my birds. They get every single thing, you know, feed, supplement, everything exactly the same. The birds, we had some pretty good drops. We had 14 on the drop on the 354. You know, 14 out of there was 46 went to the race. 14 on the first drop, and I was pretty happy. When you're driving down the road watching Wind Companion on your phone, you stress out a little bit. It's like,
Oh,
are
yeah.
they going to be there? Are they going to be there?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, yeah. So what is your process within the loft? What do you like to do to prep the birds as far as feeding, medicating, or vaccinating? What's the process of intake when you guys get birds in?
First, they go quarantine, where you do a little bit of preventive medication. They get their vaccines. We do PMV and Rota. Once they're out of quarantine, they get set up in groups, and Robert takes over with the groups. He can tell you more about that.
Yeah, once we get them out of quarantine, they all look good. Let me say, you know, on the intake part, if you overcrowd your birds in your shipping box, you might as well be just wasting your money, because in my experience, if your bird is not 100% from day one, it's not going to be competitive on these long races. So make sure, you know, you don't, you know, take them away from the parents too early. Make sure they're eating and drinking good. And don't overcrowd the boxes. They just get overheated. And we had people sending 6 birds in a little box this last year, and you put them in quarantine, and half those birds sit on the floor for the first 3 days. Well, that's not normal. That's clear sign that they were stressed out, and those birds did not make it through the series. So
Right.
do yourself a favor. Don't try to save that extra $50 or $100 when you're going to spend all this entry money and stuff. Don't shortcut the shipping.
Yeah, and
It's
don't
just not
send them
worth it.
with a dusty kind of bedding. We need hard particles, pine needles or newspaper, but nothing dusty. Because inside the box, it really gets into their lungs and it affects them.
So, but then, once we get them out of quarantine, then I make my own kind of tonics, that I've been combining. I call it the working man's formula, because I just put a couple ounces in a water container every other day. And, it's just a combination of different natural substances that I started using years ago, and just makes it easy to take care of the birds.
Yeah, they work. They come into shape really fast. It works really good. Works really, really good.
So, what about, do they have access to grit, minerals, things like that?
Oh, grits. I'm adamant about grit. I do all kinds of minerals. Um, you know, Birds go down onto the ground, because they're looking for something. They love checking around on the ground for minerals. So try to, circumvent that a little bit. I try to give every possible kind of, in different grit pots and stuff.
Right.
Because years ago they made some really fantastic grits that had a lot of charcoal and different things in it. And then when COVID hit, all the products seemed to just get really skimpy. Either factories were shut down or whatever the case may have been. So I, found, I'll order charcoal from a chicken company, and I order magnesium blocks, and all the different minerals that I'll add and are available to the birds. And
Yeah, 24/7. Grit is really important. So
although
they have their choice.
On my racing program, I do pull the grid on Thursday. If I'm doing a Saturday release, I pull the grid on Thursdays. This part of my racing procedure.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. Grit's so important to have to the pigeons every day. The guys I mentor and new flyers that call or email, it's one of the main things I tell them. You have to have fresh grit every day, especially during this time of year when a lot of people are breeding, right? Your breeders have to have it to pass on good food to the babies. And so it's extremely important. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
So what's the process then? Once they're through the quarantine and they're in their groups, you start lofting them to the loft there and start to gradually let them out. How does that work for you guys?
Well, we have the loft has 12 compartments, and then it's divided into three main compartments that are 4 compartments each. The center one, is all the landing board, and as it's not set up right now, but right before we start doing our intake, we'll set up a big net comes off the front of the loft for them to come out. Nice thing about it is they come out, get to walk around the ground. They set some perches up in there, and it actually teaches them how to spot hawks also.
Yeah.
But then we'll try to get that first group out a few days. We don't want them to really start taking off, but we want them out for a few days, and then we'll push them into another compartment and do the next group. And then once they've all, been out a little at a time, then we'll get the entire group out. What we have, let's see, our intake period's February 9th to May 1st, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
We want to keep it reasonably short because we want everything as equal as possible. We want the birds as close to the same age. We want to be able to settle those birds and get them all, out flying as a group together. And I'm one that if you don't start training your birds at the youngest possible age, they're not as good. Years ago, I would raise 3 rounds. I'd settle and train out my first round. The second round, I had to keep locked up and wasn't able to do anything because I was flying old birds. And then the third round was coming out when my old bird season was over and they got trained out. Well, 3 straight years, every single bird in the second group that did not get let out immediately was lost off my team for 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
So,
So we get them out
I
early,
want them out as early, as young as possible.
and we need to provide for the birds at this age. Motivation is important, but the motivation that they get in this stage is a comfortable environment that's free of fear, predators, free of stress. You know, the temperature is right, the air is right. It's a place where they want to be, where they can be pigeons, where they can start developing their attitudes, and that's how you start getting the motivation. They want to be there. They want to come back. It's not a place that's threatening to them. It's their home, so that it has to be a place where they want to be at. You know, so really take care of those aspects too. Their baths, their showers, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, you know, I have to be honest. I'm very, very weak on Facebook and stuff, and I'm able to do the live video for the hand scanning and the releases. But as far as other communications, I'm still learning, and I'm going to try to. I've never had Facebook my entire life, so it's kind of in fear of the internet myself. But I'm working on it, and I know some guys want to show the baths and everything, but you know, I don't know.
We'll
If I'm going
better
to send a
this year.
bird, if I'm going to send a bird to a race, I'm going to do a little research. I'm going to know that guy's doing the right thing. Look at their club race record, you know, and you know that they're treating the birds right. You know, I give the birds baths on a specific days based on what the weather is, that how much moisture it looks like there's going to be in the air. Because if you give them too late in the week and it's going to be a damp race, those birds are going down. So, you know,
Right.
I've learned a lot in 50 years, you know, on do's and don'ts. You know, you learn to lose some good birds the hard way.
Right.
I feel like I'm at the point where I'm, you know, I've been able to get good drops for my personal bird, and for this one off, we had some really good drops from the races. So pretty proud of that.
Something else to realize is that everybody has good birds now. Everybody, with any loft that you go, you will find something that's really good. You know, and sometimes the breeder doesn't even know that they're that good. So the only way to know is testing them. You know, you can never have, or you can never say my bird is the most amazing bird in the world without him telling you. You know, if he's the
Right.
most amazing bird in the world, he's going to win races and he's going to be consistent. It's not going to be a one-hit wonder. So
Right.
that's what we're trying to get out. You know, the consistent birds that fly straight. Last year we had a bird that was on the drop all 8 races,
That's
every
incredible.
single drop. So imagine that bird and the owner of that bird. You know, that's a valuable bird.
Yeah.
And how is he gonna know? That's the only way. Try him.
Well,
That's the
and
only way. Try him.
that's one of the things that's so attractive for me personally about your race is, you know, I love any kind of pigeon racing. I'm a second generation fancier. I race here in a club. I love one loft racing. I especially like going in person and watching. It's a lot of fun. But when you look at the state of current one loft racing, a lot of the races, if you average out the distance, you're getting around 200 miles average. And so that caters more to more of a sprint style of a pigeon when you're doing that type of average, and your average speed payout goes more towards the 200-mile over the entire series, which goes more towards those types of birds, which is fine. I think everybody can adjust yourself to that. But with your format, having those 300s, it stretches out the average of the distance. Plus, you said how many total? 8?
8 total races.
And 8 total races, that's basically a young bird season in most places that fly club level, right? So for guys that aren't able to fly in a club, this is a great way to really test your birds in a full length season instead of just 3 or 4 races. Also, you get the distance that keeps it to where it's going to take maybe a different kind of pigeon than the 200-mile average, maybe a different kind of pigeon for these longer distances. Do you agree, disagree?
Yes. We, well, the as far as testing your birds on a club type series, our first 5 races is flown week by week. We fly on the weekend, and it'll be just like your club race every 7 days. And then we give the birds an extra 3 days before we ship to the first 300. And then it's 8 days between each 300. But it's same scenario as club racing, really good testing of the birds. I looking at the records of my birds last night. I had nine of my personal birds out of 32 made it all 300s on the day. So I would feel really comfortable breeding off of those, siblings from those and sending them to one-off races.
And another, yeah,
which I would feel like I have my best chance of being there at the final of a 300-mile final of any other. I'm just trying to increase the odds, and I think our race would tell people and test their birds to increase their odds for all races that they send to.
yeah. And another thing that we need to consider too is that I'm not like you need a different kind of bird. No, because the birds are prepared according to the distance, and we give them what they need for that specific race that's coming up, and they're prepared for what they need. We check the weather patterns. We kind of know how easy or hard that race is going to be. Our average speed here goes 1200 to 14, kind of.
We had the last 4 years, 25 young bird races in our club, which included this last 8 race series, was 1323. So we had 1 race out of 8 this last year that was over 1,350 yards a minute. So it's definitely a working race. And if you look at it, I think this course is probably the most consistent speed wise of anywhere around. I mean, we just historically, in August, September, October, are down there in the 12 to 1,300 range. And that's no blowhomes. I mean, it happens, but it's pretty rare here.
Sure.
The birds have to work for it. They earn their keep. There's no participation diplomas either.
What direction are you flying out of? What direction do the races take place from?
We fly from north to south.
Okay.
We have a kind of a unique course because the mountain ranges kind of run from the northwest to the southeast, and the first we have to go up to get our distance. We have to go over to Interstate 5, which is 40 miles inland from where we are actually training. We train up Highway 101, but we can only get about 90 miles. Then we have to jump over and move those birds 40 miles and start up that on that course. But as we go up there, once we get past the 200-mile mark, at 150 miles from home, they have to cross over this mountain range on an angle. It's not it's like a 30-degree angle that they have to fly alongside and then work their way over the top of it. Well, in the valley, those clubs historically speeds are 1,600 yards a minute, and everybody wonders, well, how come they can fly that and you guys are down at 12? Well, when they come over that mountain the last 150 miles, we're on the coastal air and ocean air kind of, and the humidity and density, I think it just like slams the brakes on these birds. And where they're flying 1,500 yards from the same location, the same day, ours are 1,300 yards. So, it's
the wind pattern too.
Yeah, it's how they have to travel down that valley and kind of go across that hill at that, weird angle, and make it over the last 150 miles along the coast. So, and as far as our 300s, we race. One of them will be off of I-5, well, the first one. And then the second one is 30 miles, 20 to 30 miles back to the west, that keeps the birds on the coastal side the entire trip. So they have basically 2 different courses that they go, even though the races are only like less than 10 miles apart for the first 2 300s. The one race they're on the west side of the mountain range, the other race are on the east side of the mountain range for the first 150 miles. and then the final race is up Interstate 5, and just this year we went 354 miles. Based on the number of birds and how they're looking, we'll adjust. Maybe we have enough time in the day to go 400 plus if we had a large amount of birds, or if we wanted to have that separation factor. But we also like this time of year, we like to end before the 1st of November, because I don't know if everybody's watching all these one-off races. Once the 1st of November hits, you're dodging the weather.
Right.
So, we try to be done around Halloween and consistent weather, so we don't have to worry about, birds losing form and retraining and everything. So, it's a little hotter, but over the years I've learned, what feed additives to put in to try to make the birds hydrated. I love long races. I love 400 and 500-mile races. So I've learned how to prep birds to feed the birds so they get hydrated.
That's great. And so once the race series begins, you said it's 5 straight weeks, and then from there you hit your 300, you hit your final 3 races, which are the 300+ mile races. Do you go based on weather at that point? Is that why what you're talking about? You kind of decide what's best day from there?
Well, yes. Every race we're gonna, we would always go on whatever the weather dictates. We're not gonna do a release in a questionable day.
Sure.
Even when I think about our club, we only have about a dozen members, but if I say, I'm kind of amateur weatherman nowadays, but if I say, hey, we have to fly on this day, everybody's fine with that. We move. It's because it's the same for everybody.
Right.
And our club is really, supportive on how we do that. So if we have to move a day, we're going to move a day. We're going to make sure that the birds are treated right.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
And the other factor is if the birds are tired, if they had a hard race before, you can't just rush them. You can't fly them tired. You can't fly them. Yeah, you have to get them back to 100%. So they'll give you 100% next race. So if that means a couple more days, fine. But the birds are going to go 100% ability to race. Right. So that's another thing that we have to watch.
What is the process then for you guys training wise? Once they start grouping up, you have all your groups out of the loft. They're starting to loft fly. When do you know it's time to go down the road? And what is your process as far as do you start out at a mile? Do you kind of go 5 miles at a time? What's the process of getting the birds down the road, preparing them?
Well, what I believe is really important. Once the birds start out routing around, they take off from the loft, they'll disappear for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. As soon as the whole group is doing that, at the same time, I'm trying to, adjust the proper feeding to get them to trap in. But until we're out 20 miles, I loft fly the birds before I take them on a toss. Because I've been bitten before when the birds are just like, they fly for 2 hours around the loft. But if you don't loft fly them before and you take them on a 3-mile toss, they want to loft fly from that location, and then they're gone all day, and you lose birds. So
right
here, with the weather being cool on this side of this mountain, I'm able to, what you'll see is the birds will be a loft fly in the morning, and then I'll load them and take them, midday or something like that. But first few tosses, 2 or 3 times, we'll go 3 miles. And then, because there's really no good spot between, I go to 10 miles next, and then following one is 16 miles. And I'll do like three times each. Or if the birds aren't doing well, I'll keep doing it. But then once they get out, the nice thing about loft flying them before is when they come out of the trailer, they pretty much make a couple circles and head for home. And once you do that for, like 9 tosses, 3 miles, 10 miles, and 16 miles, then the birds, the next toss, you can let them all out without loft flying, and a couple tosses, they take right off for home. So, it's difficult. It's a lot of work on the first few tosses, and, try to get them, all the birds back in the loft, into the trailer. The nice thing about how the loft is designed and the trailer backs up to the chute, I mean, yeah, we had 120 birds to start with. It took maybe 3 total minutes to load those birds
Right.
and on the road. So, but I feel like when the birds are in routing and they're in good shape, I just love to loft fly before those first 9 short tosses.
Yeah, my dad, the way he'd always described it to me and to others is like, if you're going to ride a horse, you don't just saddle up and hop on and go. You let it walk a little bit, burn a little bit of its energy to where when you get on, the horse is calm and ready to dial in on what's going on. With pigeons, same way, especially young ones, they get so excited to fly. Like you said, a mile may seem like nothing, but they want to get their energy out and fly, and their focus isn't necessarily coming home right away. So I think that's good. And especially California over there where you're at, you can train them that way because you have pretty consistent weather.
Right, correct.
So what is the final training as far as I guess we should call it activation? What's the distance, and then what's the first race distance after the activation?
Well, the first this year we're going to make the sprint series, the first 5 races, optional fee if you want to. Last year it was included in the perch fee. This year, we took it out and it's going to be an optional. But the sprint series, after we do a 67-mile toss, then the sprint series fee will be due. As far as activation for the race series, the first race is 97 miles, and it's up Highway 101. That's the farthest we can go up 101. So that's our activation race for the 300.
And it's important too. This year we're going to be having a little change in how we took birds in. We want people to fly the 300s and get there with their full teams. So what we're trying to offer now is backup birds. You send those backup birds, they're not going to have any perch fees, and you can activate them or not at the activation race. But that's going to help us, or other flyers that lose some birds before we get started, get going, they have those backup birds in there. And we're thinking, if you're going to send 5, send 8. 3 of them are your backup birds. If you're going to send 10, send 4 extras or 5 extras. Those birds are going to ensure that your teams are complete at the end of our training, at the end of when everything is done and settled. Those birds are going to cover whatever losses, whatever hawk, whatever things happen. And you have the choice to activate them or not. That's your choice.
Right.
But you have the numbers at the end to make sure that you are comfortable when you hit the money races. When you hit the serious competition, you're going to have enough birds to go there.
So you have to specify when you send birds. If you send 6 for your team and 4 backups, you want to specify which 4 are your backups and which 4 are your entries. Is that how that would work?
Yes. Yeah, that's how it works. At the end, your backups can be activated, enter your teams, or they can be returned. We'll ship them back to you, whatever you prefer. But that guarantees that you have numbers going into the money races.
Got it. Interesting.
If you send 5 birds, you send 3 backups, we'll keep note of which ones are the backups. The first 5, if they're here, it's all or nothing. You got to pay all the activation fee for those 5, but it's your choice if you want to activate the rest. So if you lost one of your 5, you just automatically have a backup in there, but it's your choice down the road if you want to activate that bird.
Yeah. and
And
you don't pay a perch fee for it either.
so if you send 5 birds and then you send 3 backups, you're paying 5 perch fee.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And is
And
there
you're
a
only
max?
obligated to pay the five activations if you choose. I mean, if you want to pay, if all 8 birds were here and you want to pay all 8 activations, you can do that. But that's your
Yeah.
choice.
There's
on
no
those.
max of birds that you can send. It's just the ratio for that would be 5 and then 3 backups. So if you
Okay.
want to send 20, you're gonna send proportionally to those
Understood.
20. Huh?
So it is proportional to what you're sending. So 5 would be 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That gives people a chance, like you said, to activate those birds if they choose to, or maybe they lose 1 or 2, and but it's important for people to know, I think, for your guys' sake, because you don't want people to be confused, is that they need to nominate who's on the team and who's backups and be clear about it so that you guys know and they know and everyone's on the same page there.
Yeah. And the shipping form will specify. Everybody's filling out a shipping form, and they can write down their backups. They can write down their teams, and there's no restriction how many birds you can send. Our restriction is only 900 birds. As soon as
Right.
those 900 are in, we're closed. We're not going to take 901. We need to do a good job.
What is the process? So we've gone over intake process, we've gone over kind of settling the birds and training them down the road, and then we've talked about the activation. What is the process for uh entering the birds into the race? As you said, you guys are getting better at live streaming what's going on at the loft there. There's a conversation going on in One Loft Racing about hand scanning. Or is this? I think we talked, and you said that's something you guys do, and we'll do with each pigeon, is to make sure they're hand scanned into the race and put into the trailer at that point, right?
Yes. Yeah, I set up the my phone on the back of the trailer. Have the laptop sitting on top of the chute in the scanning pad, and when we run groups of birds down, like 30 birds at a time into the chute, I'll be able to lock them into an area with a door to reach in and hand grab each one individually, so the people can see me, Carlos and I, reading the number off of the bird, scanning it. They can hear the tone of the computer, beeping, and then what we like to do is scan them in the morning, and then the way the chute is designed, it runs them right back down the hallway back into the loft, and then we do another group. I like to do that because I like the birds to relax during the day and then feed them all equally. They get fed all equally, and then come 6 o'clock in the evening when it's time to hit the road, I'll push them all into the trailer.
The birds are pre-scanned. They're not stressed. They just go into the trailer, and they offer a better race that way too.
Yeah, they seem to be a lot less stressed out.
And so once they're in the
But
trailer,
they're all equally fed.
right? And once they're in the trailer and you go to the race location, at that point, in the morning, are you watering the birds and things like that before sunrise and everything?
I leave here and time it so I get to within 10 to 15 miles of the release location of midnight. And at midnight, then I get there, I turn the lights on the trailer, I fill the water troughs up, I level the trailer, fill the water troughs up. I sleep in the back seat of my truck. I have a CPAP machine, and I set all my sleeping goods up, and then I go back out there and lock up the water and turn the lights off. And then in the morning, I'll get up and drive that last 10 or 15 miles and arrive at the race location right before first light, right before, while it's still dark. So then I'll turn the lights on, fill the water troughs. And so the birds are sitting at the release location for at least an hour to an hour and a half before the release time. But I feel it's very important to let the sunrise. I kind of weird. I point the back of the trailer towards the sunrise, because the center where the water troughs are, the sun will shine in there and hit the water. And then, so once the sun rises, the lights go off, and I'll actually create waves down the water troughs, and it entices a large number of the birds to drink water.
Yeah.
And when the lights come on, and before the sun rises, a couple birds will stick their head out and drink, but it's night and day between when the sun rises and 30 minutes. If you go work that one, those birds, 2/3 of the birds stick their head out and drink. It's night and day when the sun hits the water.
Yeah, that and the movement from where Robert was sleeping to where the birds are going to be released wakes up the birds.
Right.
It just wakes them up they get there, so they start their day a little more alert. They're not just sleeping and prepared, and then you let them go and let's go. Most of the times, if you don't do that, the birds will stay in the trailer. You have to wake them up. You have to make sure that they're ready to go. They have water.
When I first started hauling birds, I would go actually to the actual release location and sit there all night. Well, I'd go through the same bonding procedure, but once you open the door for them to come out, they just stood there. They didn't want to come out. So I figured out that, driving 10 or 15 miles in the morning wakes them up. It's night and day. They just bolt out of the trailer when you do that.
Wakes them up, gets them thinking about where they
Yep.
are and what to do. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's interesting. That's definitely
And
unique.
all of my training tosses, beyond the 15 miles, the birds will sit there for an hour at that location with water. So once I get, the birds 15 miles, then every toss, they sit there for an hour with the water, just like a race. So I do everything exactly on every training toss. Even if it's 25 miles, they get water for an hour before they get released. So they, it really teaches them to drink. And our goal is to have successful 300s successful. And so drinking water is extremely important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, the more they learn, the better.
What is the perch fee, and then what's the entry fee?
Perch fee for a single bird is 150. 5 birds is 500. And if you go 12 birds, it's 1,000. So, and then entry fee is activation fee is 400. The sprint series activation would be 100, which is optional. And then on the final sprint series race and the final 300 series race, there's a gold, silver, and bronze or winner take all pool. If anybody's interested in that, those are optionals.
And what about the payout format?
Well, most of the money goes into the average speed, because if you see our flyer, it says all about the average. And, we want birds that consistently win, are consistently up front to win the bulk of the money. So we pay a little bit on a couple of preliminary races, and most of the money is in the average speed.
So the last 300 and the average speed.
Yeah.
But we tried to make it so the birds that were more consistent are more rewarded. And of course, the payouts are going to depend on the number of birds we get. But it's very, very generous. Most of the money goes to the birds payouts.
I think you guys have a really good, unique race and systems, and I can tell the experiences you have come from a lot of trial and error and testing things out over a lifetime of racing, and it comes through listening to you guys talk. Is there anything about the race that I haven't covered, as far, anything else you want to tell the people that people should know? Because I'll show some pictures that you have on your website as we are talking here. I'll do that in post here, but it looks like just a beautiful location, a really nice loft, and you guys seem like you have a great plan together for 2025.
Yeah, I think we're gonna it'll be more successful than last year, and you know, each year hopefully we grow.
And
You know,
those
our
are just-
original when we first talked about it, we wanted to, you know, make it a smaller race, but really elite, you know, and we priced it, you know, we figured if we get 600 birds activated, you know, we had a $500 activation last year. And we figured if we got 600 birds, we could pay $100,000 first prize. Well, you know, I don't, maybe we priced it a little bit high last year, so we reduced the price this year some and made some of the fees optional. And, you know, I think, you know, at some point we're going to get to that elite level where everybody's going to want to have their birds tested here.
Well, good.
But,
Well,
you know, if we get 550 activated this year, if we can hit that number, our plan is to pay $50,000 first prize for the first average breed bird.
and do you all welcome people to come watch for the races when they're happening?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, we have the room and we welcome it. We want them to be a part of it, like a big family of pigeon people, because I mean the sport sometimes is in decline. You have to promote it, you know. So this is a way to promote it too, you know, and get everybody together for a final or the end of the year, and just the camaraderie that goes around. You know, it's worth it. It's fun.
Yeah, well, and I think you know, having 8 races total, what you're you know, asking for perch and for entry is more than fair, and the amount of care the birds are getting and the expertise you guys are bringing to the table with a lifetime of experience in the sport, I think is exciting. Definitely a lot of people interested in this. I've told a few of my friends that we were doing this, and they're really excited to learn about you guys. And so I think you've answered a lot of great questions today about that. And so I want to break away from the race and just ask you guys, Robert, you said you like the longer distance. What type of pigeons do you race there with your birds, you know, over the years? Do you have a family of birds that you race with and distances that you like?
I love races 300 and up because then clocking is not an issue. I want the bird that's truly out front to be rewarded. So I've always concentrated on the longer distance family, and I've had there's I still have birds that go back to 1989 in my pedigrees and stuff right now. I mean, I've added a few newer bloodlines, you know, to cross in, and you know, a couple of them been successful. But I'm crossing those with my birds, and you know, that I've had for years and years, and you know, I've had really good luck with getting a lot of the champion birds, a lot of the top birds in our club, and it makes me when I only send to a few one-off races because I don't have the money to be doing a lot of, but I can say that only one series that I can remember I didn't have a bird in the final race, so I felt like at least I have a chance. You
Yeah.
know, and I've been sending birds out for what 6-7 years now, and I've had a bird in every final race but one, and I feel good about at least having a chance. I haven't hit the big one. I've hit some smaller amounts, but you know, at least I have a chance.
Yeah.
And, you know, and this kind of series will prove out your birds, and I think you'll be able to breed out of what you get back, and you know, send those birds out and have a chance with them. Have a real good chance. You know, increase your odds. It's a good way to increase your odds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like that bird you all were talking about that was first drop every race. I mean, that's an incredible accomplishment. And I'm sure that bird's going to be able to pass that to its youngsters and be a super addition to that loft. Carlos, how about you? What do you like? What do you special? Do you have any preferences on distance and bloodlines and birds, or, you know, what have you put together?
You know, I've had this birds here for quite some time now. I have 6 families. I like, as Robert does, the 250s on up to 500. I don't like the 600 too much on the birds, but I really truly think that there's no pure lines of birds anymore. Everybody's mixed their birds a lot, and it's like a fallacy to think that the bird is pure.
Hmm.
Uh, there are lots of hybrids, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful birds, but that doesn't win you the race. Only consistency does, and only through flying your birds are you going to learn which one is consistent and which not. So I've been selecting for performance, and I
Right.
bring performance to performance, and at least it doesn't guarantee you winners every time, but you have a little bit of a edge on the other people that breed for pedigrees.
Mm.
You know, so the key is performance. If the birds can't produce or they can't fly, you don't want them.
Right.
And the performance is gonna come from your race team too. Listen to your race team. You're racing and racing, race every year. There's a certain number of pigeons that are going to excel over 4 years. I raced the birds 4 years. At the end of 4 years, you're going to have a certain number of pigeons that are going to be just the best of the best. And every season, you get your young birds in, young birds in, young birds in, and you will never run out of breeders that way because you're always grabbing the best out of a 4 year period. The birds already flew 4 times, 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's great. And so, Carlos, do you have a proudest moment with the racing pigeons? Something you can think back to at any point in doing this that you look back to and it's your favorite moment that you're most proud? It's a tough question because you have many years in the sport, but is there something that sticks out to you?
Um, like price wise,
Any aspect of racing pigeons, maybe a memory of a bird or a race or prize, whatever it is. Any proud
I,
moment you have.
I love the birds. My best award I think is Hall of Fame, California, middle distance, and I have that bird, and still I look at her every day. It was a proud moment. But I think the proudest part of everything is getting to know all the pigeon flyers.
Yeah.
It's a special brotherhood. It's a special thing when someone understands a language that you're passionate about.
Hmm.
Because who else can you talk to about pigeons if it's not another pigeon flyer?
Right, right.
That's a true gift. It's
Yeah.
the people in the sport.
Yeah, a lot of when you talk to a stranger about it, they look at you like you're a bit crazy. And I guess we are all a little bit crazy liking these pigeons, but it's sometimes funny, but you're right. Robert, how about you? Do you have a proudest moment with the birds?
Uh, well, a few. I mean, they're pretty old moment, but when I was 17, well, when I was 13, the very first year I raced, I won the combine from the 200-mile race, and that was from that point on, I've been hooked. But then when I was 17, in our club, I won every single award, master handler, all the average beads, everything. But that particular year, there had never been a 600-mile daybird in Santa Maria Club,
Oh, wow.
and I I had I got second place that evening, but we had two daybirds and I had one of them, and so um, some of the things that I was doing when I was 17 years old, I still do today, and those I think I changed how our club racing, those guys were flying back then. Because I started winning everything at 17 years old, but then um, the 600-mile daybird was definitely nice, and then I won a 500-mile race that bird flew at 9 hours and 15 minutes on
Wow.
108-degree temperature day,
Wow.
and it won by an hour and a half.
That's an
So
incredible
I
performance.
still have that bloodline. I still have some of that blood in my birds right now.
That's awesome. That's
That was a
incredible.
1991 bird.
Wow. Well, my final question for you guys. I get pigeon fanciers watching that are experienced like you guys that have been around for a long time, and then all the way down to brand new flyers. If you guys were going to start over or you're new to the sport in 2025, what advice do you have to new flyers in 2025 that are getting started or maybe wanting to go from just casual to competitive? What would you guys do? What's your advice?
Well, the race sheet proves everything. So you need to get your family birds and start proving them by racing them. You don't have to win the races, because over time you'll learn how to make your birds faster. But get them out there, start seeing what returns for you, and don't think that you got to buy a $10,000 pigeon, to be competitive, because there's plenty of club members that will, donate you a bird or help you out. You don't have to spend that kind of money. And, because the most expensive birds I ever bought, I do not have anymore because they never produced anything. So the race sheet, it proves everything to me.
Yeah.
So it's, and the most expensive bird I have in my loft, I paid $350 for. So, and
Yeah, that's great advice,
Yeah.
Carlos.
Yeah. Well, the best advice I could possibly give is, if you want to start, well, one, get a mentor, and get a mentor that's winning or half winning, and listen to him.
Right.
Okay, don't listen to everybody else. You're gonna get confused, and you're gonna have too much work to do, and you're not gonna enjoy it. Listen to a mentor that you pick, and that one person. Second, don't go crazy buying birds. There's too many. Ask or buy a pair from someone who is flying birds, and buy the flyers that have been proven themselves. They have that energy to come back, or they have been, maybe no one wants to sell their champions, but maybe birds that were consistent champion birds. Get that kind of blood work. Third, do not overcrowd your loft.
Right.
You need a small number of birds, and you need to prove them. So that takes a lot of time and effort. So start small. Prove your birds. Generate your own family. Here and there, bring a bird in, give a bird back to whoever, and enjoy the sport. Don't make it a chore, because later on you're gonna have to give it up. If it's something you don't want to do anymore, you give it up. But if you make it as something that is enjoyable, then you're hooked for life. Then you're gonna be there for life.
Yeah, and a smaller group of pigeons, it's easier to manage in less time, but it's also less expensive. Feed is so high
Mhm.
and products are so high, and
Yeah,
so
and you can keep your data faster.
right.
So yeah, you can make those pigeons your friends, because you know which is which if you have a small team. But try flying 200, you're gonna know very little of that team. Because there's
Yeah,
too many pigeons.
right.
So small number, make them your friends, make those pigeons comfortable with you, and test them, and just keep the best down the years. You're gonna have a phenomenal family.
Yeah, build the bond with your birds, test them out.
Yeah, build
That's
the
great.
bond. Yep.
well, the other thing is, like, far as having a program, what worked for me, probably won't work for Carlos. Uh, just because one guy does one thing, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. What I see guys do is, like, I pick a program with what I'm going to do, and I stick to it for the entire year. I don't change. I stick to my plan and test that. If you change week by week because somebody told you, oh, you need to give them this, you need to do that, they're going to tank. That's just, you need to pick your program, and and for the time frame you have. Okay, a lot of guys are still working. You don't have time to go train every day. But I used to get off work and take them 25 miles. At 4:30, 5 o'clock when I got off work. But pick a plan that works for you and stick to it for the entire season, and then evaluate what happened and make your little changes for the next season, and stick to it for this entire season, and make the program around your time schedule and what you have time to do. And because don't get hooked on this guy does that, this guy does that. You're going to build the family of bird that works for you on your time frame and your feeding schedule and your program. And that's, build your family around your time schedule. You may need a small bird, that doesn't require training every day. If you have a great big bird, you probably got to train it 4 days a week, 5 days a week to get it to come into form. Well, Most people don't have that kind of time. So,
Right.
You know, pick a program that works. Just stick to it and run it out for the season. You're going to find out what birds react to what you're doing, and then build your family based on how those birds are doing, and your time frame from working and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
don't get this guy trained 5 days a week. I got to do that. No, you don't have to do that. You just need a bird that responds to what you're going to do, what you have time to do,
And
and you'll be successful.
I enjoy helping beginners. So if anybody's looking at this podcast, need any help or any advice, feel free to call me or send me an email. We'll always answer. And if there's anything valuable we can do, we'll always tell you the truth. We'll always tell you what we think is the truth is going to help. So feel free to contact us. We'll talk. We'll talk. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, guys. Great advice. I appreciate you guys coming on and giving us some info on the race and about you guys. And I think it's going to help people understand who you are and what your race is about. And where can people find the race? I believe 300.com is the website, and that's triple spelled out, and then 300, the number 300.com. So 300.com. Is that right?
It's right.
Yes.
On Win Companion too.
On
Yeah,
Win
Win
Companion,
Companion has all the
300. And what about, I think you guys have a Facebook for it too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's 300 as well on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. And so people
currently
go ahead.
we're having our web designer make our changes from 2024 information to 2025. So if you look at it like real time right now,
Right.
there's some contradictory information until we get everything switched
Sure.
back and over to 2025.
That makes sense.
So,
So if people want to contact you or to reach out to learn about the race, or maybe new guys who need some advice, you have a contact page here as well. I'm sure it has your info on here, and so people can find email, phone number, things like that
Yes.
to contact either of you. And so I think it's exciting stuff. I'm excited to see how your race progresses, and looking forward to 2025 and seeing how it goes for you guys. And can't thank you all enough. I appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for the interview. It was fun.
we appreciate
Well,
your time.
Yeah, and maybe at some point later this year, once the season's wrapped up, we'll have you guys back on to recap it and tell us about what the future holds for you. So
Absolutely, that would be fun.
That'd be awesome.
Mhm.
all right, Carlos, Robert, 300, thank you guys so much, and yeah, we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Good luck to everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.